I just invited the internet to watch a slideshow of my Alaska cruise. Hey all, I am following up on the Doing Things the Hard Way video here. I am back from Alaska and I've had plenty of time to develop and process all of my photos. And so I'm just going to share some of those here and talk a little bit about the experience. Not going to recap my anxieties and questions from the last video, just going to talk about kind of how it went. So I guess to start, before I do that though, I'm just going to mention a couple things. First is what I decided to bring with me. I had two Nikon 35mm bodies and a handful of lenses, and also a Horizon 202, which is a pretty interesting little camera. It's what's called a swing lens camera, and it's for shooting panoramic photos. The way it works is that this lens is built on a pivot so that it turns, and when you take the photo, it kind of sweeps across and projects onto a curved film plane in the back, and it gives you a panoramic photo. And that might be kind of abstract to describe, but if you've ever taken a panoramic with your phone, where you do this kind of thing, where you kind of sweep the phone across and then the software stitches together a photo, this is the analog version of that. And it's a cool little camera, completely 100% mechanical, just all gears and springs, which is my favorite kind of camera. The other thing I was just going to mention before showing the pictures is, as far as concerns and drawbacks, one of the things in bringing analog gear is if something goes wrong, you won't know usually until you get home, unless it stops working. But there's all kinds of things that can affect how your photos come out that you won't know until you develop them. And I had two 35mm bodies, one for black and white, one for color. The one that I brought for shooting color, unfortunately, I believe there's something wrong with the shutter curtain timing. I don't think that it was really a problem for the most part, but at the very highest speeds, it was grossly underexposing the images. And in some of the intermediate high speeds, it was showing this kind of uneven exposure where one side is brighter than the other side. I shouldn't have brought that camera with me, honestly. It was my backup f2, and my other f2 works great. I've never had a problem with it. This one is a more recent purchase, and I'd used it a bit, but I'd never fully tested it thoroughly, and so now I know there's a problem. But I only lost a handful of pictures that I wasn't really using those top shutter speeds very much, and so it didn't affect very much. And the pictures that were affected were mostly things that I was able to correct in Photoshop, just balancing out that exposure difference from one side of the frame to the other. All right, so let's get into some of the photos. I'm just going to kind of talk through the trip real brief, and the experience, and how I feel about the choices that were made. So to just kind of describe the trip in brief, my brother Tony and his wife Noni and I all flew out early to Vancouver. We met up with an old friend of ours, and we got out there early just so that we could spend a little bit of time with him. I'd never been to Vancouver before, and so get to kind of see the city and hang out a little bit before meeting with our dad, and then we were going to be going on a cruise together. I'm not a cruise person, but my dad, this is what he wanted to do, and so he had booked this trip, and I was coming out because I really don't get to see him very often, and that was the plan. Unfortunately, the morning that my dad was supposed to fly out was the CrowdStrike tech failure, and he got stuck at home and wasn't able to actually get out in time to catch the departure of the boat. So we discovered this while we were already in Vancouver, and realized that the trip was actually going to be just me and Tony and Noni, which was, disappointing and a little bit surreal, to be honest. I think that it turned out to be a really fun way to spend time together. Lately, like I'm really close with my brother and his wife Noni, and lately we haven't really been able to see each other connect as much as we would like. So to get to spend a week all together, just really kind of hanging out with nothing in particular to do was nice. Being on a cruise ship is weird. It's a lot like a floating casino that you can't leave. And every once in a while that casino happens to pass by something interesting to look at, or happens to stop and you can get out and go places. And so, I think that the fact that the scenery that we were passing by was glaciers and the places that we could go was like to go see parts of Alaska made that more kind of interesting and exciting to me. And that was why I really wanted to shoot a lot of photos on this trip. Just I was going to be seeing things that I normally never get to experience. The weather while we were there was mostly pretty overcast and a little bit rainy, mostly more kind of foggy and misty, which I understand for the time of year we were out there is pretty typical. We got one or two kind of sunny days, but really it was mostly kind of gloomy weather. But that was pretty cool looking also. And overall, I had a really good time. Just kind of every day I had my cameras with me and I got to just kind of think about photography, think about looking for opportunities to take pictures wherever they might be. And I brought a lot of rolls of film. I ended up bringing 3 different types of film: Tri-X, which is a black and white 400 speed film, that classic emulsion. It's been around in some form or another for many, many decades. I also had with me Portra 400 speed and Ektar, which is a 100 speed. Both of those are color negative films. And I prefer Ektar. It's a finer grain. It's got really punchy colors. Portra is a little bit more neutral and, in my opinion, lacking in personality. But given the conditions that I was going to be shooting in, the Ektar was more limited in use just because it's more of a sunny day type of film, and the Portra was going to do better on these overcast days. And in total, I shot 25 rolls, 10 rolls of Tri-X, and I think 6 Ektar and 9 Portra. So I ended up developing the black and white myself at home, and the color I took to my lab. They turned that around pretty fast for me, and then it took me several weeks really to get through all of the processing and all of the scanning. I do all of my scanning of my negatives. I like to do this myself. It gives me more control of the final result, and I also feel like the quality is better than I've ever seen from a scanner from the lab, or even like a flatbed scan at home. I'm doing this all camera scanning. I'm always learning new ways to incrementally improve my method or my results, and that was even the case on these. And so maybe that's also something that I enjoy about it. When I'm editing digital photos, it feels like a chore, but when I'm doing my conversions of negatives into positives with film scans, it feels like each individual image is being revealed, and that's kind of exciting, and it keeps me really engaged as I go instead of feeling like I'm just kind of slogging my way through this never-ending pile of digital shots. And the nature of film just makes me be a little more selective when I shoot. I might not take, with digital, I might shoot 6 or 8 shots of the same thing. I don't even know why it's so tempting to do that, just to make sure you get it, I guess. But with film, you really just kind of like pause and think and take the best shot you can. And maybe if it's something that requires a bracket, you go over and under exposure a little bit or something like that. But usually you're just being thoughtful and selective as you shoot, as opposed to worrying about it later, which makes the edit process a lot more fun. I didn't feel like there were any shots that I missed because I was shooting analog. I really don't feel like it would have been any different. There might have been a few opportunities to shoot some very distant wildlife that were a little trickier with the gear that I had. But honestly, that wasn't what I was even there looking to do. And nothing sticks out in my memory as a moment where I wished I'd brought something else. I was just really kind of enjoying what I had with me, being in the moment of it. And I think that the pictures that I brought home really, they feel to me like, I feel like I captured the mood of the place, which is what I'm always trying to do. I had a journal with me. I always carry a travel journal whenever I'm on a trip. And so between that and these pictures, it's really going to help me remember the experience, remember the time. And I think that, again, I'm really happy with how it went. I enjoyed the process as I was doing it. I even found myself occasionally having conversations with random strangers who were curious or kind of delighted to see these old cameras. And a couple young people who were on the trip also shooting film, which was fun to see. So anyway, I will be back next time talking about painting, showing a time lapse or process or something or other. I'm not for sure what I'll have for you next time, but it'll be back on topic with painting. Just wanted to follow up on this since a few folks expressed interest. And so I thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.